to this episode of Author Talk. My name is Aaron, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to Paul Steele. Now, Paul resides in Sweden, where he's a copywriter and trainer, teaching yoga to both groups and individuals, many of whom are 50 years of age and older, and we'll get into a lot more of that in just a little bit. But he's here to tell us about not only teaching this form of yoga, but to also talk about his journey to this point and how he came about writing his recently released Yin Yoga 50 Plus, Slow Flows to Restore Your Body, Improve Flexibility, and Relieve Pain. So again, thank you so much for jumping on here today, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and get into it a little bit. But first, I want to kind of lay the foundation for people that might be familiar with yoga in different forms, but aren't specifically familiar with Yin Yoga. So if you could kind of explain what Yin Yoga is and why it's especially beneficial for people 50 years and older.
Sure. I think lots of types of yoga are very, very active, if you like. They're called Yang Yoga, as in yin and yang, you know, the two types of spirits, if you like. In the case of Yin Yoga, it's a much more passive type of yoga where you're actually trying to relax in a pose and you're staying in that pose for 3 minutes or more, which is the idea. Where a yang type of yoga would be aiming to stretch your muscles, you're more trying to stretch the connective tissues, the ligaments, maybe even the bone structure, to actually really sort of pull out and stress those tissues. The result of that is to give you a greater range of motion, if you like. I think the point, and if you go back to the point you're making about people who are, say, 50 plus, I mean, I'm thinking about myself and the way if I'm sitting in front of a desk and my spine over time is going to contract. It's got to go one way or the other. Or I'm left-handed, so I do the same repetitive motion all the time, and somehow I'm going to get problems on one side or the other. And the whole point about Yin Yoga and the whole point about these long-held stretches is that you actually putting, if you like, you're becoming asymmetrical. And the point about Yin Yoga is you can put that symmetry back into your bodies. And for me, I think that was the biggest gain that you can get from it. The whole point of putting the symmetry back, and you have to increase the range of motion because you're in a pose as long as you are. And I think that is what the essence of Yin Yoga is, and the beauty of what Yin Yoga is to me.
Okay. Yeah, excellent description there for sure. Now, I know that, so that kind of flows, pretty well into the next point that I want to make, or the next question I want to ask. And that's more specifically about your journey in getting into Yin Yoga and how it seems to kind of change your life, really. So I guess explain, like, how did that all start? Why did you decide to give yoga a try, and how has that kind of changed the way that you live?
Yeah, first of all, I've always been active. I mean, I used to teach sport 100 years ago. I spent most of my winter skiing. I spent most of my summer playing golf when I'm in the gym. And I've been trying different forms of yoga. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, this is okay. I really must do this because I've understood it's good for my flexibility, especially for stretching out the muscles, if you like. But I wasn't really happy with it. And then several years ago now, to be honest with you, I was in a kickboxing class, which is probably where I shouldn't have been. And I damaged my knee. And it got to the point where I couldn't actually walk forwards down a hill. I had to turn around and walk backwards. And I was looking at what kinds of treatments. And I was thinking, and I could see there was actually, we did an x-ray with the health professionals. We could see that there's some form of arthritis in the knee. And I thought, okay, maybe my next step is to have some kind of knee operation or whatever. But then I found, if you like, by accident, I found Yin Yoga. They were doing it at the gym. And I started to go, and I went from a position whereby I couldn't actually fall back into child's pose because my knee hurt so much. And then after a few months, I thought of continually doing Yin Yoga. I thought, wait a minute, there's no part of my body that gives me any problem, that hurts, that aches, no joints that are, what could you say, spooking, if you like. And it could only be because of Yin Yoga. So, I mean, I started life as a teacher anyway,
Mhm.
and I was showing people like, wow, you should try this. People in my own age who say, oh, I have problems with my shoulder, I have problems with my hip, I have problems with my knee. Um, why don't you try this, and showing them how to do it? And then somebody suggested, why don't you go on a teacher's course, which I did about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And carrying on from that, I was teaching groups and I'm teaching individuals. And again, I just see people seeing the enormous benefits that Yin Yoga gives. And I thought, well, I'd like to share that with even more people, which gave me the idea about writing the book. And that's where we are today, if you like.
What was that experience like specifically when you were kind of going through that? You know, you had this injury, you thought, you might definitely need surgery. You're thinking of kind of all the limitations that you were going to
Ah,
go through with that injury. So what was that like, practicing yin yoga and realizing some of those benefits and how much healthier you felt?
yeah. First of all, it was awful. I mean, I wouldn't say I live to ski, but I spend most
Yeah.
of my winter skiing.
Okay.
I love to play golf, and it was particularly skiing. I thought I'm never going to be able to do this again.
Hmm.
And then I think I started to do yin yoga, and there were two things that appealed to me. One was that I could actually feel, if you like, the release of staying in a yin yoga pose for a long time. I could feel after 2 minutes that, wait a minute, I'm coming a little bit further down. I'm coming a little bit further down. I'm releasing more and more tension. And add that together with, if you like, the breathing and the parasympathetic, that is to say, the sort of rest and digest rather than fight and flight benefit of deep breathing together with the stretching at the same time. I could feel slowly but surely like, wow, wait a minute, my body, if you like, I mean, it sounds corny, but becoming more at one with itself.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Um, and for me, that combination of deep breathing, if you like, a form of mindfulness, together with the various different ways of stretching your body or the poses that you do in Yin Yoga is, for me, it's a fantastic combination. And for anyone anywhere that has some form of joint trouble, I'd say go there immediately and give it a go and see what you think. But give it a go. Don't just give up after one time. And also, if you feel you have pain in a particular joint, come out of it. Don't force into that. You should never do that. Come away and just say, okay, I can do this much, or a skilled yin yoga teacher will always find another kind of pose that will help you.
Okay, I think that's an interesting point too. In like you said, you are a teacher. It just kind of how like you can use this in the general sense, but you can get very specific and kind of program more directly toward the individual person and their kind of needs. So how important is that in terms of you can use this for general benefit,
Sure.
but you can use it for very specific uses.
Well, I think there's an interesting answer. First of all, I think no, like if you like a corny response again, but every body is different.
Right, true.
I
No,
mean,
I completely
literally
agree.
everybody is
Yeah.
different. Look at my body or your body or everyone else's body, and we all have different bodies, which means that we're probably stressing our bodies in different ways.
Mhm.
So it's a case of, okay, so where is it I'm feeling that stress most? For instance, if I'm going to go and play golf, and I speak to an awful lot of people who play golf, and they say, I have a problem with my elbow, I have a problem with my shoulder. So then I would say, well, okay, use those specific yin yoga poses, like for one that's called open wing, where you're basically bringing back the shoulder and leaving it there for these 3-4 minutes. And then you can feel that would release. And then again, exercises like that or twisting stretches where you're there for a long time would mean that a golfer, for
Yeah.
instance, could get an awful lot of benefit with a specific, if you like, targeted yin yoga session just for them. The other way of looking at it is people say, okay, I mean, as I get older, I have problems sleeping. Fine. Think about the deep breathing and some of the more relaxing yin yoga poses you can do before you go to bed, maybe, and that would
Mhm.
help you sleep. So anything for shoulders, backs, hips, knees, there are different ways of targeting those areas, which will hopefully release the tendons going into them and relieve any pain that a person might have or any discomfort a person might have.
I think this brings on an interesting discussion because generally, so we're talking about individuals that might be 50 years and older. We might be talking about people who have occupations where they are sitting at a desk
Yep.
throughout the day, and need to work on more of that mobility. But some of the things that you're saying might bring in a whole new audience in talking about
Yep.
athletes. With respect to say there might be a baseball player, like you said, a golfer that has like shoulder issues, back issues,
Yep.
and kind of needs this, and maybe this is an area that they need to introduce into their fitness to kind of improve. Like what have you seen in that respect?
Well, I think that any athlete. I mean, first of all, I mean, generally I work with people 50 plus, to be
Right.
honest with you. But I mean, I do work with people who are, I wouldn't say professional golfers, but they're getting there. You know, they're on to a level. Or for instance, my daughter and her boyfriend, who are into CrossFit in a big
Okay.
way,
Yeah.
and they're very, very heavily into CrossFit, and they're not 50 plus
Right.
either. And I mean, they say the same things because of the actual exercise they're doing. For instance, with CrossFit, where you're doing a snatch or a clean and jerk, you're putting again tremendous pressure on the shoulders. You can be putting tremendous pressure on the hips in doing that. And they both said, like, wow. In fact, my daughter sort of spreads the word to her CrossFit friends. You should
Right.
really be doing some of this because of look at the way that you're releasing your shoulders. Look at the way you can release your hips. And in so doing, you can lift that bit heavier. You're not going to get the same pressure on your on your shoulder because you've managed to release it that bit more. So yeah, especially for athletes. But then again, I could think, well, okay, people in my own age group or younger, then
Yep.
things like hiking, cycling, whereby you might be where your hip flexors are going to get a bit shorter,
Okay.
your hamstrings are going to get a bit shorter, maybe. Then you have again the different kind of poses to stretch your hip flexors, stretch your hamstrings, bring yourself forward so you're stretching your lower back. I mean, these things are going to make people be able to walk or cycle or play golf for an awful lot longer and an awful lot more comfortably. And again, I think that's a huge gain for anybody that wants to lead an active life, regardless of how old they are and at what level of fitness or at what level of expertise they are within their sport.
How have maybe you seen this particular form of yoga kind of increase in popularity, or do you see it becoming more popular because of some of those reasons that you just listed?
I think it's one that's booming, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think that yoga's been around for a long, long time. Yin
Right.
yoga's only been around since the 80s, although if you trace it back, it's from Hatha Yoga, so it's like sort of 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 years ago from the border of northern India and China. But what I'm finding is that of all the classes in gyms and all the classes around, yoga's been around for a long time, but people are really awakening to Yin Yoga. There's a network called Yin Yoga Network on Facebook, a group for this, and there's well over 100,000 members on that group right now.
Okay.
So there are other groups that are it's if you like, it's blossoming. I wouldn't say it was in its early stages because it started in the 80s with some guys in martial arts actually that were looking at ways of as if you know yourself that if you're boxing, then your body is becoming sort of shorter, if you like, your muscles are
Right.
becoming shorter, and this was the way for them to actually stretch their whole bodies out and prevent injury. But yeah, to get back to your question, I think it seems to be a booming way of doing yoga. And one of those reasons, I think, is because people can see, first of all, they can feel an effect, and they don't have to wrap their legs around their neck to be able to do it. Anyone can do yin yoga.
Right. Okay. Very good. Very good to know too, because I myself cannot wrap my leg completely around my head. So I would not be able to do that.
No, neither would I. And I think that gets back to the point that, it's your body, it's your yoga kind of thing. So, I mean, uh, one of the phrases that people often use with yin yoga is you don't use your body to get into the pose, you're using the pose to get into your body. So it doesn't really matter if you don't look at this perfect pose, or you can't do an Instagram shot again with your legs over one way and your arms over the other. The whole point is relaxing for 3-4 minutes in a pose and letting both your body and gravity do the work of making you feel better mentally, emotionally, and especially physically.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned those specific things at the end because I wanted to ask about some of the specific benefits. So we know like the physical benefits that we can benefit from doing yoga. But I know in the book you talk about and you kind of touched on better sleep quality,
Mm-hmm.
stress relief. So what can you say about some of those extra benefits like outside
Sure.
of the physical?
Sure. I mean, there are two issues, aren't there, with Yin Yoga? I mean, the first is, as we say, you're actually staying in a pose for this longer period of time.
Mhm.
But I think the thing is that one of the big aspects of Yin Yoga is to conscious breathing, whereby you're doing different types of deep breathing exercises to, if you like, bring your consciousness down. So what you're doing, as you will know, Aaron, you have the sympathetic type of fight and flight responses in the nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which we talked about before, which is all about rest and digest.
Right.
And the deep breathing connected to the sort of long held stretching brings your whole, if you like, your body temperature or emotional temperature down. In my own case, I used to wear a pulse meter, and I saw it go down about 13 beats per minute.
Mm.
The best I've seen, I was working with a couple of friends of ours, and she had a resting pulse of 85, and after a yin yoga session, she was down to about 65,
Oh, wow.
66.
That's a
So
pretty good
you
increase
see, yeah,
or
I mean,
decrease.
that was really interesting, actually. Sorry, Oren.
Oh no, I said that's an excellent decrease in resting heart rates. That's amazing.
Amazing. So, I mean, what are you doing with it? Of course, I mean, you're by definition, you're lowering your blood pressure, you're regulating your heartbeat,
Mhm.
and frankly, you're helping yourself, your mental state relax. So, for me, I think, the another sort of life changer for me has been able to do that, because before I was like do, going here, run there, run there. I can do a yin yoga session and think, oh, now life is good.
Right. And I think everyone could use a little bit of that every now and then,
Absolutely,
for
absolutely,
sure.
yeah, sure,
Um,
yeah.
so those are some excellent benefits that you named off. But now, having been a yoga teacher for some time now, what are some of the misconceptions that you've seen or heard, maybe from some people? I think people that might not be familiar with yoga at all, or just
Uh,
kind of getting introduced to it, might see like, hey, these guys are just kind of laying or sitting there stretching, but they don't get the full scope of exactly what it is.
I think the wonderful phrase I love is when everybody in yoga starts like putting their hands together like this and saying namaste, and then say, oh great,
Right?
what does that mean? And they haven't got a clue. They have no idea what they're doing or why
Right.
they're saying it. And
Yeah.
what it actually means, it's actually an Indian tradition where young people are showing a sign of respect to old people. So
Okay.
so young people would do it to me because I'm a bit older. But to get to the actual point of it, I think there's a misconception that you have to be flexy bendy before you even start, or the goal of yoga is that it's all about incense and sort of little people playing little
Mm.
tambourines or whatever, and there's a if you like a pseudo mysticism about yoga. There's a fake mysticism about yoga in general. What I like about yin yoga is it's very Western, and the poses have Western names.
Mhm. Right.
You're in sleeping swan position, or you're in a butterfly position, and a butterfly is pretty obvious. You just put your feet together and let your legs flop aside,
Okay.
and you take away all that pseudo mysticism, because it isn't a religion. It might have started as one, if you like, 4,000 years ago, but I mean it's simply a way, I wouldn't say it's even a lifestyle. It's a way of us to feel, to help feel better about ourselves physically and mentally, or by being able to relax and by feeling less stiff.
Great.
Those are two major benefits for me. I can't emphasize enough how much it's certainly changed my physical life, and I'm sure it's changed my emotional life, which is why I like to share the whole practice with people, if you like. If that
Um,
answers your question, I'm not
uh,
sure.
no, it does. Excellent answer. And that kind of brings me to the idea of if you are, and certainly I would encourage everyone to get the book because it's going to explain so much here. But if you had to kind of lay out or kind of explain, just like a couple of poses that maybe a beginner could do, what would you recommend there?
Well, first of all, I think that anybody can do most of the poses in Yin
Okay.
Yoga. But if I were to say, if you were to do a TV pose,
Okay.
and by TV pose, what I mean is the adverts that come on the TV, and I don't know how long they are in the States, but over here in Sweden, they're very
Right.
long. Then I would simply do one called a half butterfly. And by that, you just simply sit up straight. You would have one leg up out straight, and you would have your other leg sort of bent with your foot against the straightened
Okay.
leg, and then just lean straightly forward like a half butterfly kind of pose. And that to me is a fantastic, fantastic, I'm speaking Swedish there, TV stretch, because you can stay in that pose and, just gently feel coming down, feeling better while the advertisements are on the TV. So,
Yeah.
and then the next time there's advertisements are on, you do the other leg. So that
Okay.
one I would definitely say. And again, I mean, I just talked about if you're having particularly shoulder problems, then again, I think the whole concept of open wing, whereby you're simply stretching outside, you just look to one way and you just push, with one hand to push this shoulder blade out. So the shoulder blade is on to parallel with the floor, and you're just gently and slowly pushing that out. And of course, it's giving your shoulders a nice workout. And you relax. If you relax your shoulders, you can relax the tension in your neck. You can relax tension down your back. Two very easy ways of doing it. And also, even what's called child's pose. Simply, just from sitting on your hands and knees, just sit back on your haunches and again relax. And that's a great one for flexibility in your ankles as well as in your hips and your knees, being able to just let those, particularly your ankles, go. I think people forget just how much. People say, "Oh, I can't squat down very far," and they'll say, "Well, it's my knees or it's my hips," which could well be. But often the ankle joint is so stiff, so you can't get down there. So just being able to just stretch your ankles out either way is a really, really nice way of improving the whole of your mobility, actually.
I think those are excellent recommendations because I'm not sure how exactly it is in Sweden where you are, but I know in the United States, as active as we try to be, a lot of us fall into the trap of, whether it's because of our jobs or whatnot, we are kind of stuck in this position of this seated position for long periods of time, and just maybe not getting up and moving around as much as we should probably. So yeah, those three that you mentioned, I could see being a benefit for a lot of people.
One thing I would like to actually add there, because I think it's really important about if you go back to the whole point about yoga, other forms of yoga contra Yin Yoga, every Yin Yoga pose except one, you do it either sitting or lying down. So that's why I say everybody can do it. If you can get on the floor, you can do Yin Yoga. As simple as that.
Yep.
And I think that's a really important thing to make. That plus the fact, again, and I go back to it all the time, but it's this whole business of staying in the pose for a long time, making sure it doesn't actually hurt while you're in the pose, and just letting gravity do its work, letting it put your body, if you like, put your body back together again in the symmetrical way it really ought to be.
Okay. Do you see then, it sounds like maybe you see some benefits as far as like kind of realignment of your body? Is that, or am I reading that incorrectly?
Not at all. I think that, and again, I come back to this because we touched on it a bit at the beginning, but I think, again, we become asymmetrical.
Yeah.
And the only way to become more symmetrical again is to just try and align your body, which I think the poses of Yin Yoga are perfect in doing. I mean, I think many of us, first of all, I think if you ask someone, try this yourself after we finish this. If you sit on the floor and stand up and sit on the floor and stand up, which leg do you use to get up? And I can almost guarantee you it's the same leg with every single person.
I'm envisioning myself doing that right now and thinking of, exactly how I do it with the same leg every time.
Yeah. So of course, what's going to happen is that you're going to unbalanced, one side is going to become unbalanced compared to the other side of your body. So just by actually putting, for instance, there's a very simple stretch called bananasana. You're just stretching your whole side of your body here.
Okay.
And again, if you do that on both sides and you're done for 3 minutes, and then you're going over to the other side, and again you're stretching the whole of the outside of your body, from your triceps all the way down to the muscles here, the intercostal muscles that help you breathe, to your IT band, which is going to like sort of release the pressure between your hip bone and your knee. And by doing that, you're just bringing back slowly but surely, millimeter for millimeter, you're bringing back the symmetry back into your body.
Excellent, yeah, excellent descriptions again. Like I said ahead of time, I won't take up too much of your time, especially I know that we also have a pretty decent time difference between the two countries.
I'm fine. I'm enjoying this actually. Still.
And actually, yeah. So what I was just going to bring up is then again, if you guys haven't got a copy of your book yet, definitely pick it up. You will find in it, I don't know if I could show this on camera, but yeah, a lot of the poses that Paul has been talking about here, full color photos, excellent descriptions to kind of, help take you through these different poses so that you can see a lot of the benefits that you've been explaining. So I definitely appreciate that.
Can I just mention two quick things about it while we're on it, Aaron? First of all, everything I did in the book, I checked out with a colleague of mine who's a doctor. She also happens to be a PT, who's a personal trainer and a Yin Yoga instructor. And the other thing I did, I checked out together with a good friend of mine who's a physio. And so each of those, I mean, I tell you the Yin Yoga perspective, but then the doctor and the physio actually come with their perspectives. And when it comes to each pose, then the physio is actually saying, well, this is a bit extra, if you like, what you get from it. And the second thing is that I've always tried to put there's a ways of getting into the pose and always finding easier ways. So if people are not used to Yin Yoga, they don't think that I could never do that. I mean, the answer is yes, of course you can. Just look at the easier way of doing it.
Great. And I mean, you've piqued my interest too. So I'm definitely, I have not tried Yin Yoga, but you are definitely getting me more interested. I'm lucky to have the book right here, so I can take a little deeper look into it. I know that I would benefit from a lot of those. But go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing is, I mean, in the a real exponents of Yin Yoga are going to tell you, you have to do this for 60, 90 minutes. But there again, who's got 60, 90 minutes every day? So one of the things I found very popular when I'm talking to people is I did a section at the back called 15-minute fixes. So what can you do? I mean, we've all got 15 minutes, right? Somewhere along the day, we've all got 15 minutes. So, I mean, 15 minutes to, like, as we say, for office-bound shoulders, for instance, how can I fix my shoulders after a day at work? For people that might be having a little bit of a problem with their hips because, again, they're sitting down too much at work. My knees are sort of acting up a little bit. What can we do about that? So 15-minute fixes for shoulders, knees, even your appetite. What can we do about that? What's going to stimulate the meridians, as they call it, in the stomach, to help you feel a little bit more like eating or eating the right thing or controlling your appetite or whatever that happens to be.
Okay. I did notice too that, I mean, we mentioned different sports, whether that's recreationally or competitively. There is actually a section in there for specifically for golfers, which I thought was interesting. That I think a lot of people would probably benefit from. Because we are talking about specifically with this book, 50 and older, maybe I know a lot of people personally that, I mean, they start to get closer to retirement age, and that's one of the things that they really enjoy doing is going golfing. So they would definitely benefit from that quite a bit. So.
Yeah, cool. I think so. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, particularly one of the stretches where you're stretching one side of your body to the other, if you like, you know what I mean? So you're actually supine twist. So that's that whole sort of separation sort of brings you, so that when you actually I look at people who are 50 plus playing golf and their arms move, but the rest of the body doesn't.
Right.
I've seen
it too. I know what you mean.
And again, just like sort of exercise, sort of poses like, for instance, supine twist, where you have the separation of the body, gives you that much greater flexibility to come around and hit straight through the ball, which gives you an extra, maybe, hopefully 10, 15 meters with your drive or, whatever it could be.
Okay. Like I said, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Excellent discussion, though. I think we really covered, areas or topics that pretty much anyone can benefit from. I know this says 50 plus, but kind of regardless of age, I think there are a lot of people that are really going to benefit from this book. So again, if you haven't got your copy yet, go ahead and pick it up. It's on our website, us.humankinetics.com. I believe it's also on Amazon. You can find it in other bookstores as well. So again, thank you again for your time. I truly appreciate it. And I can, again, give you the last word here. I don't know if you have a way that people might be able to connect with you to kind of learn more, or maybe they're in your area and they can stop in for a session.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, because in my area in Sweden, first of all, the book isn't in Swedish.
Okay, that's true.
I believe it's actually soon going to be in German, I've understood,
okay.
which is quite cool. So that's good. I mean, no, I mean, the only thing I would say about again, I go back to this about writing the book, is that the benefits of Yin Yoga have helped me so much, both physically and mentally, and calming my body, and particularly giving me the ability to do several more years of doing the things I love, particularly skiing or cycling or going to the gym or playing golf. And the reason for the book was to help other people be able to extend their active physical lifetimes. And I think that's, if I can achieve that, then I've really won, and I feel really great. If I could do it with just 1 or 2 or 3 people, it would make me feel very, very happy.
Awesome. I think that's great advice and great insight for everyone. So yeah, thanks again. I really appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch. We'll talk soon. Thanks.